I kept the transfers automatic so I wouldn't have to think about them. Every month, the same amount, 2,500, left my account and landed in my brother's household. I never framed it as support when I spoke to them. I usually said something smaller, just helping with a few things. It had started years earlier, during a period when my brother's business collapsed and the family was close to losing their place. What was meant to be temporary quietly stretched into routine. Bills stabilized. The children stayed in the same schools. Life resumed its shape. After a while, no one mentioned the money anymore. I visited occasionally, usually on weekends when my schedule allowed. At first, those visits were warm enough. My mother would cook too much food. My brother would talk about plans that never quite materialized but still sounded hopeful. Then something subtle shifted. It started with small pauses when I entered rooms. Conversations that seemed lively would quiet slightly. My brother's wife began making comments that weren't directed at me, but somehow hovered in my direction. Some people think throwing money at problems fixes everything. I didn't respond. Pride is complicated, and I assumed she was protecting her own. The next few visits felt different. I noticed the way my brother's tone changed when talking about responsibility, about people who had it easy, about those who didn't understand real struggle. I told myself they needed space from the feeling of being helped, so I visited less. The transfers continued. One evening, during dinner, the tension finally surfaced without disguise. My brother's wife pushed her chair back and said something that sounded rehearsed. "You know what the problem is. When you come here, it feels like we're being watched, like we're some kind of charity project." My brother nodded slowly beside her. "You steal the joy out of things?" He added, "Everything feels like it's on your terms." I remember looking down at the table, noticing a scratch in the wood I hadn't seen before. I said quietly, "That's not what I want." No one responded. A few weeks later, my mother called me a freeloader. She didn't say it angrily. It came out almost casually while we were discussing groceries and utility bills. "You're free all the time. Some of us actually carry the household," she said. For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood the sentence. But I didn't argue. I told myself people say strange things when pride and pressure mix together long enough. I assumed eventually they would understand. Life has a way of revealing things slowly. Then the landlord announced the house had been sold. My brother called me that night, sounding irritated, not worried, mostly complaining about the inconvenience of packing, about how unfair it was to be pushed out like that. Moving day was set for the end of the month. No one asked if I would help financially again. It was simply assumed, the same way the monthly transfers had become background noise. On the morning of the move, the driveway was full of half-packed boxes and restless frustration. My brother was pacing near the front gate, arguing with someone on the phone about rental prices. I arrived carrying a folder instead of a box. My brother barely looked up. "You picked a great day to show up empty-handed," he muttered. I didn't answer right away. A car pulled up behind mine, and a man stepped out holding a clipboard. He introduced himself to the group as the property representative handling the ownership transfer. That was the first moment anyone looked directly at me. The representative asked for confirmation of the final signatures. I handed him the folder. Inside were the closing documents. Years earlier, when my brother's financial collapse threatened the house, I had quietly bought the property through a small holding arrangement. The monthly $2,500 had never been rent. It covered the mortgage, taxes, and utilities that kept everything stable. The representative explained calmly that the property had been sold to a new buyer who planned to renovate. No one interrupted him. My brother's expression shifted from irritation to confusion as the explanation settled into place. My mother kept looking from the paperwork to the house like she was trying to reconcile two different versions of the same memory. I finally spoke. "The payments end once the sale finishes," I said. "After that, you'll need to arrange something new." No accusations followed. I didn't mention the dinners or the comments or the word freeloading. My brother asked one quiet question: "You own the house?" For a while, I answered. The representative began discussing timelines with him, vacating dates, deposit returns, standard procedures. I stood there for another minute while they absorbed it. No one told me to leave, but no one asked me to stay either. So I walked back to my car and drove away. The transfers stopped the following month. For the first time in years, the silence around the situation felt honest. Not peaceful exactly, just clear.